So I've got a rental property, and my tenant decided to be a drug dealer, I guess. So there was some type of a bust that happened on the property several weeks back on a Friday morning near afternoon. So 7 o'clock that Friday evening, Officer Drew Randall, Vancouver Police Department, shows at my house with a criminal citation for me for the tenant not having garbage service and for having solid waste in the yard, 4 or 5 garbage cans of household garbage and a lot of other junk, just yard sale stuff. So Monday morning, my wife went to an attorney, $700, start the eviction process, started garbage service in our name, so it would be there while his days remained, the tenants. Tuesday afternoon, I'm self-employed, I lay carpet, pushed some work aside, rented a U-Haul truck. It's about $75 with the gas for it and the rental, large U-Haul truck. Loaded up the garbage in the yard, $177 dumping fee. Then the eviction happened several weeks later. The tenant, I think, felt a little sorry for me, so he did agree to move out of the house so I could re-secure it and take possession of it. His possessions were in the yard then. He slowly picked through them for the next couple of days, moving things to a storage unit. We had a worse code situation with what he left. I rented another U-Haul truck, $75, $150 dumping fee, plus my time, pushed work aside. I think I did the right things, excuse me. I thought that's what your code is for, to get action. I did it in a timely fashion. And in speaking with Mr. Gaithy about the prosecuting attorney for the city, Jonathan Skatchke, I think, might be saying that wrong. Looks like he says I'm going to be 2 years probation and some court fines or fees. So Mr. Gaithy said he has the power to dismiss it. He doesn't micromanage his prosecuting attorneys. Jonathan Skatchke says he has the power to dismiss it. He's not going to. He's going to recommend 2 years probation and court fines or fees. I spoke with the police officer's commanding officer, Amy Foster. She says she could have it dismissed and she won't do it. The officer could have it dismissed. He won't do it. I spoke with the chief several weeks ago about another matter about this situation. I believe he said he could dismiss it, but he didn't know enough about it. Seems like everybody can dismiss it. Nobody will. I'm asking you, my city council, if you have clout and power on these matters, would you dismiss it? I'm a criminal sitting here before you with a criminal citation. It takes work to not be a criminal. You have to not drive drunk, not steal things, not take drugs. I don't do those things.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Herman. Sorry that happened. Mr. Gaithy, does the city council have the authority to dismiss a criminal violation?
Mr. Mayor, no, that's not within your authority.
How about leaning on your head attorney to do it?
That's really outside of our purview as well, Mr. Herman.
Oh, please.
Yeah, because there's no difference
Believe
there.
me.
Are you kidding me?
We cannot tell our staff to dismiss criminal or civil violations. Really? You don't really think that your city council and mayor can direct staff to whether or not they should be enforcing or not enforcing laws?
I guess I assumed it goes on, maybe not here on camera, but I assumed you have influence. Well, I think about citizens come before you all the time asking for you to do things for them. And I think of recently a couple young ladies that charmed you with their, a greenhouse in the wrong spot as a ridiculous code violation. And, you massage things behind the scenes. And I think it was taken care of the next week, I believe. So.
Yeah,
I mean,
ordinance and interpretation of ordinances, a different matter entirely.
So when you review your codes like you did recently, I mean, is this what you have in mind? Torturing and, I lose sleep anyway over the CRC and breach tolls, but this is a whole new matter because this is personal. I mean, I discovered I got this balding spot up here, I think is coming from that. And
From the CRC?
no, from this matter here. that quick. I had a full head of hair just weeks ago. But, I mean,
Who told you that? Yeah, council, feel free to weigh in. I feel sorry for you, Steve. Sounds like you had a pretty bad tenant in a pretty bad situation, but it's not within your elected officials, city council members' purview to tell staff who they should and shouldn't prosecute. And frankly, Mr. Gaethje, maybe you can weigh in, but I'm guessing that once a violation is started through the court process, that an officer can't come back and say, no, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to issue this ticket.
Well, I would prefer not to talk about I prefer not to talk about this in a public setting, but if the council would like to hear it, the reason that this case got to a criminal citation level, and I explained to Steve that normally 99% of these cases are not resolved through the criminal sanction process. They're resolved with a civil citation and hopefully a cleanup order. But this was, in some respects, related to some significant drug activity. This house was related to some significant drug activity that the Vancouver Police Department was very concerned about. Compounding that was then the things Steve has talked about, which were basically code violations dealing with outside debris and that sort of thing, which he has cleaned up and has taken responsibility as a landlord to do that. But there were these prior incidents that occurred that were of a fairly serious nature.
can I respond to that?
Well, we're not in court here, Steve, but Mr. Turley, did you have a comment?
I'd like to ask a question. Now, does this go before court, a hearing officer, or trial by jury, or what? Where does it go from here?
It is a case in Clark County District Court, so it goes before a district court judge.
Okay. So
likely-
this is where Mr. Herman should plead his case and tell what all he's done and everything else.
Court system.
And
Exactly.
the court will make the decision, not this body.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions, Ms. Stewart?
Well, was the claim that there was inappropriate or illegal activity going on at that residence and that you had been notified and that you had failed to take action? Is that what they're saying?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I have a call into the code enforcement head,
Well, but
Jerry.
the police, if there's a piece of property and there is suspected drug activity, the police aren't shy about contacting a property owner and
That's how
saying there's something that we don't like, we suspect going on there.
That's how I feel. And when Drew Randall showed up with that citation, he said, I've been getting calls for 2 years, which the tenants hadn't been there 2 years, so on cars coming and going. I said, well, why doesn't anybody contact me about this? And when I spoke with his superior, Amy Foster, she knew the case, but she was unaware of a drug bust, she said. She said, I didn't know about any drug bust, so.
Mayor,
Yes, city manager.
if I could suggest that we leave the inquiry into this matter in the hands of the court, where it's being prosecuted and heard, and if the council would like a briefing on the procedure on all code violation cases, that kind of thing, we're happy to put that together and deliver it to you. But relative to the facts of this particular matter, because it is being prosecuted and will be heard in district court, if I could suggest that the council not pursue any additional lines of inquiry relative to the facts of it.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a little bit of a heightened concern that I'm hoping, and I'm going to have communication
I know what you're
about
saying.
how this came about, because it seems really odd that somebody who hadn't had any trouble suddenly has all this trouble.
I know what you're thinking, and more than one people have suggested that maybe this is some payback. But go there.
It doesn't feel very good, but I want to talk to you about details, and I'm going to be merciless, so.
Well, I
Yeah.
haven't received notice of any drug activity, or I think there was a garbage, or
Okay.
not,
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Never ceases to amaze. Okay, thank you very much for coming to speak to us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. One announcement